What is going on, guys? F3 doing another video, and welcome back to another episode of Umineko When They Cry. Last time we left off, oh my god, things were getting intense. It's nearing the second twilight. Natsui almost sought Eva, and we flipped the chessboard around for like the 20th time. Hooray! And I'm pretty sure dinner is about to be served, and I'm assuming there's gonna be poison in it.
お夕食の準備が整いました。
Yeah, no, I still think that Genji is a little suspicious.
お食事はまたこちらでよろしいですか?
ええ、ここへ運ばせなさい。
You're
南
still
條
locked in
先
the
生は
power.
まだ厨房にいるのですか?
I'm pretty sure in the power it's just Natsui and the cousins.
はい。
And yeah, Nanzo is with the servants are all together. Eva and Hideyoshi are together.
次の一手を熟考したいとおっしゃっております。ご安心を。他の使用人たちとご一緒です。
Carefully deliberate over his next. That's a little suspicious.
源氏さんはじい様の相手ができるくらいチェス南條先生よりも強いらしいぜ。
そうなんだ。昔相手をしてもらったことがあるけど、あれは勝たせてくれたのか。
マリア、もうすぐ飯だそうだぜ。しかし、よく一日中テレビを見ていて飽きねえな。
Yeah, no, she doesn't care. She's like, yay, murder, Beatrice.
いつもテレビいっぱい見てるから平気。
ええ、マリアちゃんはテレビっ子なんだね。
I used to be.
食事だから机の上を片付けないとダメだぜ。
There's nothing on the table, though. Earlier, we had torn several pages out of Maria's notebook, and there was now a mess with... Oh. Jessica began cleaning that up quickly. Still, everyone here really can draw. I never guessed.
源氏、エヴァさんたちにもせめて食事くらい一緒にしないかとお声をかけなさい。
Yeah, to join us for dinner before someone else dies. It's near the second twilight. The two are the closest will be ripped apart. And I assume that
お
means
父
killed.
様の次はエヴァさんですか。つくづく後宮家の食卓には全員が揃いませんね。
Well, at least everyone that's alive, if you're going by that logic, you can't really, because the bodies are still in the bed. Naturally felt her headaches start throbbing again and lightly held her temples. The distance from the kitchen to the parlor wasn't that great, so Genji had gone and come back by himself, but the guest room was a little further away. Natsui had warned him to avoid being alone whenever possible. Just now, Nanzo had also admonished him, saying it would be better if he held a little more concern for his safety. Kennen accompanied Genji, and the two of them went to visit Eva and Hideyoshi in their guest room. Genji knocked on the door.
エヴァ様、秀吉様、お夕食の準備が整いました。
He waited a while for them to come out. Oh, Sitter!
源氏様、これは。
Yo, are they dead? Kennen pointed under the door. Or is there like what? Oh, it's an envelope. Oh my god, that's even worse. Normally when someone was interested this way, it'd be interpreted as a message from someone outside to someone in the room. So since this might be a private note meant for Eva and Hideyoshi, it was not interesting that Kennen... It was not something that Kennen and Genji were supposed to take interest in. But this Western envelope was one of Kinzo's, the same kind as the one Maria had taken out last night and surprised everyone with.
間違いない。親方様の封筒だ。
あるいは。
Oh my god, now Kennen... Wait, Kennen looks shocked. This is like the most I've ever seen him emote, ever. Even though this was one of Kinzo's envelopes, the letter Maria read out loud the previous night hadn't come from Kinzo. Genji continued knocking a little harder and called out in a loud voice.
エヴァ様、エヴァ様、源氏でございます。いらっしゃいますか。お返事をお願いいたします。エヴァ様。
But there was no response from inside. Oh no. Sometimes when the servants went to call some guests for a meal, the guests would be sleeping so deeply that they wouldn't wake up. At times like that, the servants would stick a letter in the door to show that it was time to come out and leave the guest be. But despite that, Genji beat even harder on the door and called out Eva's name. However, there was no answer. Kennen stuck his ear up to the door, held his breath, and listened for any sounds coming from inside.
テレビの音らしきものが。でも気配が感じられません。お部屋は空っぽかも。
Open the door! Genji took out a handkerchief and carefully not to touch it with his bare hands. Gently pulled out the envelope that had been stuck under the door. It was sealed with deep red sealing wax. Without a doubt, the mark on the sealing wax had come from the Ushiromiya family head's ring.
エヴァ様、エヴァ様。
Just open the
どうか
door
お返事を。
instead.
もうお部屋にはいらっしゃいませんか。
But there was still no answer. There was a chance that those two were aimlessly walking around the mansion. This was the home Eva had grown up in. There were plenty of reasons to think that, no, she's dead. Genji grabbed around in his pocket and pulled out the bundle of keys which contained the key that would open the guest room.
源氏様
Cannon also understood what this meant. They would sometimes unlock the doors so that they could go in and do things like make the beds, but only after the maids of the guests were out. To unlock the door for any other reason, especially to do when there was a chance the guest hadn't even given permission and might still be in there, was an action unbecoming of a servant. But Genji had decided. If the only problem had been that this knock hadn't received a reply, he wouldn't have gone that far. But this envelope under the door was doubtlessly one of Kinzo's. Or rather, one of the western envelopes of the Ushiromiya family head. After last night, the sender of this envelope could be someone other than Kinzo. This letter had been sent by someone else?
エヴァ様、申し訳ございません。お部屋を失礼させていただきます。
After giving that final notice, Genji stuck out one of the keys from the bundle into the keyhole. Oh my god, is he dead? There was the sound of the door unlocking. And after slowly turning the knob, he slowly started opening the door. Oh yes, he's dead, isn't he? Light seeped through the crack of the door. Were they in the room? Or had they forgotten to turn out the lights? Clank. It was the sound of the door chain Oh, they locked the door! Holy shit! Okay, they might still be alive if they locked the door, unless someone broke into the window, killed them, and got out. The lights chained the TV, all these things made it clear they were in the room, but there was no sign of them. Genji called to Eva once again through the crack of the door, but there was no answer.
源氏様いかがしますか
Break down the door, or something. As per their job, the servants were able to unlock almost any lock in the mansion, but they had no way to open a door with a chain. The only way to get by the chain was to cut it. That was certainly not permitted as per the servants. I don't care! Do it! A creepy chill had already rushed up their backs. Cannon held his breath again and tried to sense someone through the door, but even so, he was not able to sense anyone.
私は奥様をお呼びしてくる。
Oh my
彼女
god.
のチェーンの切断を。
Yeah! Okay, finally!
はい
Why were they so concerned with the envelope? They should be forcing their way in instead. As Cannon hurried away to get the cutting tool, Genji called him to a stop.
待てカノン。厨房に戻り、熊沢と行動するように。断じて一人で行動してはならんぞ。
Wait, why?
はいかしこまりました
It looked like Cannon was wondering why he had to do something so troublesome in the middle of this urgent situation, but Genji had said it out of weariness. He didn't care what happened to himself, but in the worst case scenario, he didn't want anything to happen to Cannon. That's still a weird thing to do, isn't it? In the kitchen, Kumasawa was piling food on the serving cart, and Nanza was watching for Genji, apparently wanting to sell him a move he'd finally thought up that might turn the tables on him. But Genji's appearance immediately told him that something was wrong.
おや、どうしましたか、源氏さん。南條先生、申し訳ありませんが、この勝負は一度中断させてください。カノンはチェーンを頼む。熊沢、食事の配膳は一時中断し、私は奥様のところへ行く。南條先生もご一緒に。何かあったんですかな。
Genji took Nanza, who still didn't know what was going on, and quickly left the kitchen.
熊沢さん申し訳ありませんが僕と一緒に来てください
何があったんですかカノンさん
Kumasawa said almost exactly the same thing as Nanzo, unable to take in the situation, and chased after Cannon, who had flown into the hallway. Taking Kumasawa with him, Cannon went to a storage room and looked through the tools packed in the toolboxes and hanging all over the walls, trying to find something that could be used to cut the chain.
何を探してるんですか私も手伝いますよ
ドアチェーンを切断するんです大きめの番線カッターはどこだっけ
ドアチェーンをどうしてそんなことをするんです
Don't
か
ask questions.
エヴァ様たちのお部屋にチェーンが中にいらっしゃるはずなのにお声をかけても返事がないんです
It took Kumasawa some time to figure out how cutting the chain and even Hideyoshi not answering were connected, but she did realize this was an urgent situation.
これなら多分
Cannon took down a very large wire cutter that had been hanging on the wall. It was called a cutter, but maybe it would be easier to understand if we said it was shaped like a large pair of pliers. Kenan remembered once being warned that this dangerous tool could easily cut through one of your fingers. Kenan took that and rushed up the stairs. He already knew instinctively. He should fight for every minute, every second to open it quickly. Or perhaps it was already.
待ってください、カノンさん。
早く。
Kumasawa eventually caught up with him, gasping for breath with both hands on her knees. When Cannon changed his grip on the wire cutters and looked up the door, he let out an struck speechless. Oh!
なんですかこれは。
What the f- Kumasawa screamed weakly, her face pallid. That was no surprise, because right there, on the door, just like the magic circle that had been drawn on the shutter of the Rose Garden storehouse, there was a oh! Yeah, no, they're not alive. There's gonna be some corpses in this room. They might have their faces smashed in. However, it would be odd to call this one a magic circle, because unlike what most people would expect it to be, it wasn't a circle with shapes drawn on it, but a slightly more complicated geometrical shape. Geometry! However, those strange characters filling in the gaps which went from the alphabet were the same kind as the ones on the magic circle on the shutter. But that thing that had Cannon struck speechless wasn't how eerie the magic circle was. It was that something like this had been here a short while ago. Yeah, who did that? First, he'd taken a trip back to the kitchen. After that, he'd gone to the storage room to grab a tool and headed right back. Put those together and it... Okay, yeah, no, Gainsey is very suspicious at the moment. He's the only person who could have drawn that. And as though it had just been drawn, almost like the door itself was bleeding, several unsettling vertical red lines slowly dripped down, getting longer and longer. Kumasawa's knees gave away and she sank down on the spot. If Kumasawa hadn't done this first, then Cannon sure he would have wanted to.
ベアトリーチェ様。ベアトリーチェ様の仕業ですよ。恐ろしや恐ろしや。
Just open the door! Cannon gulped at the readied wire cutter and approached the door. He didn't want to get close to this disturbing magic circle, and he really didn't want to touch the steadily dripping substance that looked like blood. But if he didn't get any close, he wouldn't be able to cut the chain. Fighting this cold feeling, he gulped again. After gathering his courage, he went even closer, putting the wire cutter up against the chain. He then pressed with all of his strength, managing to cut through the chain far more easily than he had anticipated. The cut chain fell into two separate parts, which continued to clang. I don't care! Open the door.
カノンさん、足元に封筒が。
Oh my god. Stop worrying about that. You were so behind, Kumasawa. Stop being useless. It looked like Kumasawa had also noticed the western envelope at the bottom of the door, and that the sealing wax had been sealed with the head ring. Ken hesitated for just a second over whether he should open the letter first or check inside the room, but he eventually decided on fulfilling his original purpose. Kenan pulled a handkerchief out of his pocket. This way he wouldn't leave any fingerprints on the... What? Oh, okay. He slowly pushed the door open. He was able to more clearly hear the sound of the television, which had been seeping out faintly this whole time.
エヴァ様。
Ava was lying face up on her bed. On the bed with her shoes still on. Kumasawa, who had fearfully entered after Kenan and who was hiding behind his back, screamed a short eek again when she saw Eva like that. Eva's shoes had been the first part of her that Kenan had seen, so the oddness of... That's weird. But when Eva's head shifted into his line of sight, Kenan couldn't help but let out a short scream like Kumasawa. Right in the middle of Eva's forehead, something hit it. Please. She got... Oh my... Oh... Oh... Okay. So, maybe I was wrong about Eva being the culprit. Oh my... Oh, yep, she's dead. Is Hideyoshi dead? I like Hideyoshi more than I liked Eva, but Eva was... the base of where it was stuck in, blood dripped down, standing on the seats. Oh, yep, that's my reaction too. Her mouth kept flapping open and closed, but she couldn't even scream. Eva was dead with some kind of... Well. Yep, Wait, she's still... I guess it didn't update until the body's fully examined. Both eyes were open. That's a error, but in the image of the person who killed her must have been burned into them. But the only mouth capable of naming that person had been shut for all eternity. Even though her forehead was the last place they wanted to look, they couldn't tear their eyes from it. Right there, the weapon was stuck into Eva's forehead, standing almost perfectly upright. And on the handle was a complicated design that you wouldn't expect to see on an ordinary weapon. That thing could be summed up the word occult. It was a vulgar object, though with a design that might have been some demon.
秀吉様は秀吉様
Eva was on top of her bed, but the other bed was empty. Where was Hideyoshi? After taking a backwards glance at Kumasawa, still on her knees and stupefied, he checked the bathroom just in case. The moment he opened the door, he was greeted by the steam and the sound of the shower. The bathroom was one of the same familiar styles as most hotel bathrooms. When taking a shower, a waterproof curtain was used to keep water from flying out. Oh my... Oh! Okay, you know, that looks like a steak text box. Go away, I kind of want to see what that is. And pointed right at Cannon. Just like Eva, a weapon with a demon-like design. Oh my god! Jeez, at least the last one you didn't get to see it. But the sight of him dead while still taking a shower was tragic enough. Just then, they heard Natsui's voice coming from the hall. She was probably coming with Genji.
またしてもこのような落書きが。この手紙は中にはなんと。
いえ、まだ読んでおりません。
うかつに触らん方がいいですな。犯人の指紋が残っとるかもしれん。警察に渡した方がいい。
わざわざ手紙を残すくらいです。どうせ指紋など残っていません。
As Natsui said, she picked up the envelope. And before checking its contents, she entered the room herself where she found Eva dead.
エヴァさん。
奥様こちらには秀吉様も
これはむごいですな。
カノン、シャワーを止めてあげなさい。気の毒に程があります。
That's not what you should say. That, oh, let's save money. Kieran gripped his handkerchief and twisted the valve, turning off the shower. In the bathtub, a small jar of body soap had fallen off with its cap off. It really looked like he'd been attacked while taking a shower. There was still a small splash of blood clinging to the white bathtub. The combination of red and white made it... Oh. Are they finally pronounced dead? Yup. Eva found in the bed in the guest room inside the mansion with a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of her forehead. And, yep, found in the bathroom of the same guest room that Eva was found in. Like Eva, there was a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his forehead. You can't see either of them by looking through the gap of the door. Hey, how could it... Okay, that kind of sounds like Maria, but I really don't think she can... Yeah, no, she was with the cut... Okay, so these 5 were together and have alibis. And by the way, this is for like killing them, not the circle. Kanon, he was with Genji. Nanzo and Kumasawa were alone. Okay, but if my theory about Genji, like, with the I almost said chessboard, with the door, then why would he be there with... I don't know. I don't know, I'm just gonna process info before I make theories.
わかったね。市販は出とらんな。死後硬直も始まっとらん。おそらく殺されてから1時間経ったかどうかというところだろう。
Wait. I thought you said you couldn't do anything with the... Nanzo? You couldn't do anything with the first bodies. Why are you... Did he do something? I swear he said that he, like, wasn't a professional or something. Nanzo checked their pulse and their pupils, making certain of their deaths once more. As Kennen watched this business-like treatment, he thought, couldn't you tell at a glance that they were dead without doing all that? Nacho thought about removing the weapon, but then decided it would be better to preserve the scene and hand it over to the police, so he left it alone. But a close inspection of the base showed that it didn't have a blade. In fact, it was more conical than blade-shaped. He noticed that rather than a knife, it was more like a sword-handled spear, something with a shape kind of like a stake. Or ice pick, that works. At any rate, after looking at the scene, no further words were needed to describe what sort of terrible purpose such eerie design weapons were originally made for. Nor was it necessary to explain how they carried out their function. Naturally, he hoped to escape the repulsed steam filling into the bathroom as soon as he could. Covered him mouth with a handkerchief and gas in the room. Just viewing their gruesome bodies for an instant had been enough to burn the image into her eyes. Ah, dang it. The two were closest were torn apart, and they were like having a moment when they died. Ah. The rising urge to vomit was exactly the same feelings he had. Yeah. For a while, naturally couldn't help but stand with her back facing in the guest room, fighting that sickness in her stomach.
とにかくこの部屋を子供たちにジョージ君に見せるわけにはいきません。至急この部屋を閉じなさい。
I'm assuming he's just gonna come around the corner. Just be like, hey. Okay, what the heck? Battler and Jessica saw dead parents, but now, oh, George can't. But they could tell that those fiercely racing footsteps in the hallway belonged to George even before he came dashing into the room. George and the other children had been waiting in the parlor. However, when they saw Genji speak to Natsui, when they kinda had to. When they saw a large group of people gathered around the guest room, they were sure of it.
なんだよこれまた魔法陣かよ
エヴァおばさんたちは無事なんだよなおいカノン君これは何の騒ぎなんだ
バトラ様
Okay. That is a very suspicious face for someone who... I don't know. Well, they could have been... I don't know. Seeing Canon react, like, makes me suspicious because he didn't make that face over Sanon's death and he was sad about that. What if he killed them before he found it and was faking? Canon didn't have to say anything. George screamed after he ran into the room, told them everything they needed to know.
誰がこんなことを殺してやる殺してやる
ジョージ君しっかり
Naturally touched George's shoulder with her hand, but he violently shook her off. George fell over beside Eva and buried his face in the bed in front of her mother's face, wearing. Then he pounded on the bed with his fist over and over again.
ジョージ兄さんしっかりバトラ様
Battler had his back against the wall of the hallway and was covering his eyes with his right hand and weeping without restraint.
心に決めた女を恋なく同じ日に親父とお袋まで殺されるそんなの
And plus, they were the only, like, functional family branch. Of course, it's sad whenever anyone dies, no matter who it is. But to Battler, those left alone by the deaths of others were far more worthy of pity. Everyone here now had lost someone close to them. George wasn't the only one to be pitied. However, George's pain was far greater than everyone else's.
バトラ
そりゃよ人はいつか死ぬぜ人間誰だっていつか死別の魂と戦わなきゃならねえ日がでもよそいつは兄貴にとってはずっと未来の話でしかもそいつは一つずつ順番に訪れるべきもん無すぎるぜやろう少しは人の情けってもんがねえのかよ
This is just horrible.
バトラ泣かない
Maria tried to comfort Battler in a mechanical sounding voice. Battler violently wiped his tears.
くそ 食らってるわけだ。主勢一方ってわけだ。そりゃダメだぜ。全然ダメだ。チェス盤がひっくり返っちまうぜ。
Oh my... Can you stop? I get that it's your fucking fidget spinner, but oh my god, every time you do that, you just confuse yourself even more. Like, it was a nice moment, but you're overusing
野
this.
郎は俺たち羊が明日まで逃げる手段もなく怯えてるだけだろうと思ってたから。ひっくり返すぜ。明日までこの島から逃げられねえのは野郎も同じだ。しょんべんちびりそうになりながら逃げ隠れするのは俺た暴いてやるぜ。
You're like doing nothing. Battler, stop playing with your freaking fidget spinner.
明日までに。いや、明日なんか待たねえ。今夜中にその胸ぐらを掴み上げてやる。
And just like that, the chessboard was spun around again, and I guess 2 people were dead too.
とにかくこの部屋は警察が来るまでこのままにして
You
施
should
錠
really
します。
keep everyone together because as soon as that policy went out the window, someone died.
いいですね。
Natsu announces it to say she didn't care whether they agreed or not. If anyone had the right to object, it would have been George, but he looked as if he hadn't shed enough tears. George nodded slowly, still facing away from the others, and when he stood up, everyone else agreed too. Natsui still hadn't opened that western envelope with the family head that she'd picked up, but now that they had decided to leave this room, she decided to unseal it in the parlor where everyone could watch. As soon as they walked out of the hallway to head back to the parlor, some of them immediately felt something out of place, maybe sensed something strange. Was there another magic circle?
答えよ。
マリアもわかるか。
What stinks?
こりゃ
Did
何
battle
の匂いだよ。
refer?
ひでえ匂
I
いだ
really
ぜ。
shouldn't be making jokes at a time like this. When everyone sniffed the air, they did notice a horrible burnt smell drifting through the... Oh my god, someone else is dead.
私ちょっと厨房を
Someone
見
else
てき
is
ます。
definitely dead.
火はちゃんと消したはずなんですよ。
After noticing a burnt smell, it was natural that Kumasawa, who had just... No, someone else just... Who was burned alive. Kumasawa hastily dashed away. Wait, who could be burned alive?
熊沢と行きなさい。一人にさせないように。
はい。
After nodding at Genji's order, Kirin followed after her. He wasn't running, but as he followed her, he tried to search for the cause of the smell in other directions as well.
臭い。
これは確かに鼻が曲がりそうな匂いですね。しかし換気のために窓を開けてもいいものか。
Nacho was looking to open the windows in a situation where self-defense was so important.
換気扇を回させましょう。窓を開ける必要はないと
A
思う。
fan in a mansion this big? Sir.
ジョージの兄貴、話しかけても大丈夫かよ。
犯人を探す相談なら構わないよ。
No, it's about my new fidget spinner. It seemed that George had managed to climb out of the abyss of sorrow. All that filled his chest now was the quiet flame of hatred towards the culprit. Yeah.
部屋にはチェーンがかかってた。さっき構造を見たが、とても外から細工できる代物じゃねえ。つまり完璧な密室だったってことだ。
そうなるね。バラ庭園の倉庫の時はシャッターの鍵を使用人室からこっそりと持ち出したのだろうとか。
These people keep forgetting that windows exist. Like, every single one of these murders, there's a window, and it's just like, oh, they could have just climbed through the window and done it, but every time they're just like, nah, no one can climb that much. And I just think about, like, that's like such a big possibility.
複製の鍵を持っていた可能性とか、いくつか方法が想像できた。
Sure, the window was small in the storage house, but I mean, it was big enough that I think that someone could have fit through.
でも、チェーンは違う。チェーンは一般に浸透した施錠方法の中で、最もシンプルに密室を構築できる。
チェーンだけは物理的に破壊しない限り外からはどうにもならないぜ。じゃあつまり犯人は扉からは出入りしなかったってことなのか。
こりゃ面白いや。
Why is that interesting?
つい数時間ほど前にも扉以外でどうやって部屋から出入りしたのかってみんなで騒いだ気がするぜ。
Back then, we were losing a crew wondering how grandfather had disappeared from his room. The receipt Aunt Eva stuck in the door and on the whim provided that the door would remain sealed. It since Aunt Natsui, windows are the answer. Aunt Eva proposed a theory about how Aunt Natsui might have thrown grandfather out the window. Okay, finally! And off the door herself. But this door is much simpler. It's sealed from the inside by a door chain. The window had been also locked from the inside and the... Okay, now you have defense against the window. Like, it took long enough. This time it really had been, without exaggeration, a true closed room. That's right. If you include grandfather's disappearance, 3 cases. Was there any, like, vents or... Wait, hold up. What if someone was hiding under the... Okay. That's what Battler argued with Kinzo's case. That, like, oh, he could have been hiding under the bed. What if someone was still in that room when it happened? Someone kills them, hides under the bed, and then while waiting for everyone else to come in, waits till they leave, and then slips out. There was a key in the servant room, and if we assume someone knew... And they didn't seal the door. They were going to, but they didn't. Even if they did, the window might have been open. The next was the door sealed by the receipt. However, Aunt Natsui entered that room. So if grandfather had left through the window or been thrown out, she would have been able to lock the window before escaping. Or like my theory, grandfather could have hidden until the receipt was gone and left the room later. Basically, this door can be defeated with a handful of desperate tricks. In that sense, you really can't call this one a closed room either. And now we have the doors sealed with the door chain. Finally, we have to give up. The window, the door, everything had been locked. It was a perfect closed room. The first hadn't been a closed room because everyone could be suspected. The second hadn't been a closed room because Aunt Natsui could be suspected. But this time, no one can be suspected. This is a perfect closed room because the door chain formed a seal that blocked everyone equally well.
I
think it's time to spin the chessboard around. Oh, and that's ominous, using that as the background.
確かにチェーンである以上人が通れるほどは開けなくても多少の隙間を開けることができる
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, but Cannon couldn't see through.
ノックして顔を覗かせたところを襲うとか
Unless there's a shapeshifter among us.
甘いか
甘いよな。エヴァおばさんの遺体が扉のすぐそばだったならそれも考えたぜ。だがエヴァおばさんは部屋の奥のベッドの上。
Oh yeah, that's another possibility. I highly doubt this, so guys don't get mad at me for like making this stupid claim like this. But what if someone just like did a really accurate maneuver and hit it? I mean, like, it's like Danganronpa 1 Trial 1. But I doubt anyone could have done that. Especially the way that it hit them.
チェーンの隙間からでは姿を見ることもできねえし。
Yeah, and that door was
手を
sawed.
伸ばすことも
I
で
was
きね
gonna
え。
say if like it was open a crack, technically you could do it, but that's just impossible.
全然ダメだぜ。さっぱりだ。
Something was tugging softly on my sleeve. It was Maria. Please don't say Beatrice.
おお、満足？
満足って何がだよ。
Oh my. Oh yeah, no. So like you got a kihihi over there. And there's a kihihi over there. Does she? No, she doesn't have it. Okay. Yeah, no. Definitely something off about that.
バトラは親族の誰かを疑うのが嫌だから犯人はベアトリーチェであってほしいと願ったよ。だからベアトリーチェは叶えた。バトラが言った通り絶対に人間には無理なことをしてバトラになのにわがまま。
Finally, I tapped Maria, who was laughing unpleasantly on the head with my fist.
ああ、叶えてくれてありがとう。今のはその礼と不謹慎な時に笑ったことへの教育的指導だ。それより教えやがれ。エヴァおばさんたちの部屋の扉にもまた怪しげな落書きがされていた。あれもまた魔法陣なのか。あ
あれは特に覚えやすい特徴的な形なんだから、あのくらい知っててほしいね。
知らねえから花を持たせてやってんだ。ごちゃごちゃ言わねえで解説しろい。
バトラは暴力的だね。あんまり意地悪すると教えないよ。
No. Oh my god, sorry, I'm just adjusting my headphones again. For some reason my ear's itchy. But like, you have to say something. Okay. Like, I know I shouldn't be advocating it, and I wasn't when it was Rosa, but I'm doing it now because, like, imagine all of your parents besides some... Wait... I'm sorry, Yasoma Natsuri, but you're suspicious. Everyone else who could have inherited the money is dead. Well, I mean, the kids, but like, that's suspicious. And also the servants are also kind of suspicious too, but I'm definitely focusing on this. But, I mean, that could have just been luck. I mean, she had an alibi, she was with the cousins, so she couldn't have done it, at least I hope not.
あれは月の一の魔法陣だよ。
何の意味がある？その魔法陣のご利益は？書かれてるヘブライ語の意味は？
記されているのは旧約聖書詩編第107編の16節。主は聖堂の扉を破り、鉄の栓抜きを打ち破ってくださいました。魔法陣の効用は2つ。一つはいかなる方法によって閉ざされた扉でも開くことができる。
そりゃ便利な魔法だ。つまり魔法の力に頼らなきゃ開けぬ密室の扉っていう。もう一つの効用は、
開かぬ扉を八方塞がりの事態に見立て扉を開く。難解な事態の時に用いることで、それま
Like
で思い
spinning
つ
the
きもしなか
chessboard
った解
around.
決策を与えてくれるんだ
Maybe
よ。
they should draw a chessboard next
平た
time.
く言うと、観察力や洞察力、ひらめきや直感を授けてくれるんだね。ベアトリーチェはバトラごとき人間風情にこの扉の開き方がわかるものかって挑発してるんだよ。
They should just ditch her.
よーし、もう黙れご苦労。上等だぜ。
マリアちゃん、この世に魔女も悪魔も存在しない。父さんと母さんは
Yeah, he
誰かを
kinda
殺した。
like he was like, oh no, it just exists, but like he kinda has to say that because I mean, like people are dead. This
そ
isn't
れ
like
が
a
僕のよく知る
game.
人間なのか知らん。でもそのどちらであっても必ず人間なんだ。
しかしどうやってせいぜい10センチ程度しか開かない扉の隙間からどうやったら室内の2人を。
それにしても耐え難い匂いです。一体何事なのですか？
Surely it's a corpse. Ken Kumasawa, who had gone on ahead, realized the smell wasn't coming from the kitchen even before they arrived there. That was because they noticed an even thicker wave of stench rising up leading to the basement.
ボイラー室。
Oh
また
no,
ボイラーの調子が悪い
no,
んでし
the
ょうか。
basement. No, lock Maria in there. That way she can't cause any more trouble. The mansion's boiler was an. Oh no, don't go in the boiler room. That's bad. That's like asking to be murdered. Slam.
今の音は
Oh my god. I'm not used to Kennen reacting, and that face is just funny. The thing that I heard from the basement was definitely the sound of a door closing. Oh, someone's in there! Kumasawa was so surprised the sound. Oh my god, why does he keep dropping to her knees? At that very moment, no one could have been in the boiler room. Just a few seconds ago, everyone had been crowded together around Eva and Hideyoshi's room. So, who caused the sound of a door closing just now?
カノンさん。
After taking a second to sort out the situation, Cannon Don't go in the basement. The person who closed the door had been on the inside of the boiler room now. If the boiler room had been a dead end, Cannon wouldn't have rushed in so hastily. But Cannon was a servant, so he knew. There were two entrances to the boiler room. One that opened to the mansion and one that opened to the courtyard. If we didn't chase them now, they might slip away. Kumasawa reached the same conclusion long after Cannon did, but she couldn't let him go alone. No, who needs? If the thing in the boiler room was the culprit, an opponent who had easily killed 6 adults in the first murder, then no matter how Cannon confronted them, he wouldn't be a match. Of course, with this argument, even Kumasawa joined him. It wouldn't change anything. At any rate, even after a delay, Kumasawa decided that he mustn't let Cannon go alone and rest on the stairs. Oh my god, I hate the boiler room. At the time, Cannon was already in the boiler room. The boiler room's characteristic damp heated tormented him. It had always been an unpleasant smell and hot place. On top of that, the room was full of the horrible stench while made Cannon feel like he was going to be sick. There was no doubt that this room was the source. In that case, Cannon should be searching for where the smell was coming from. However, Cannon kept gazing straight forward as he grabbed a hatchet. Oh no, he's getting violent. He hadn't stretched out his hand because he wanted a hatchet. He wanted to grab a weapon, any weapon. Why? For murder. Cannon gazed into the darkness with the naked light bulb couldn't pierce. Then he answered.
ルーレットは数字と赤黒にかけて配当を競い合う。だが赤か黒かのようなリスクの低い賭けはその程度の配当しか与えられない。
The words coming from Cannon's mouth were swallowed up by the darkness. The darkness suddenly started to swirl, glittering. Wait, butterflies? Yeah! Cannon, you're approaching this the wrong way. You have to flip the chessboard around. You can't fight them. It was such a fantastical scene. Golden sparkling butterflies that hid in the shadows. Surely this isn't real. Cannon continued speaking, directing his words at the darkness. Yeah, no, I'm definitely leaning towards the Hinamizawa syndrome style answer that this is all not true. But as the butterflies gathered in the darkness, they, perhaps, probably, no, they would certainly laugh. But Ken continued to speak without flattering in the slightest.
逆により的中率の低いかけ方をすれば、そう親方様は天文学的なリスクを的中できることを、その結果得られる天文学的な配当を魔法と呼んでいた。親方様とお前がどんな魔法を求めてルーレットに挑んでいるのか。しかしルーレットには赤でも黒でもない目が出うることを忘れている。
Rabbit is a special pocket called Zero, which means that the house takes everything in certain variants of the game. This means that all the coins bet on the table will be swept up, just as though everyone had forfeit.
僕は一つだけ心に、もしシャノンが殺されて僕が生き残るようなことがあったなら、この身を投げ出してお前のルーレットを全て台無しにしてやろうと。これは親方様が決めたルールでも、ましてやこのルールは僕が作った。僕はもう家具じゃない。
Characters come for. Oh, he's gonna fucking die in 5 seconds, isn't he?
ゼロなんだ。
Yeah, no, don't. Dude, stop. I want to be happy for you, but I'm scared for you. Cannon's face twisted with humiliation. It was clear that his defiance against his own weakness was being ridiculed somehow. Cannon's brow creased any further, and a fierce expression that he'd never showed to anyone appeared on his face. The hand grasping the hatchet was shaking. His sweat became drops which soared downward. It was clear that the emotion causing Cannon's hand to shake wasn't just anger. However, Cannon suppressed that emotion.
僕はもう悪魔のルーレットはこれでおしまいだ。地獄にてさらに1000年、次の召喚者を待つがいい。ベアトリーチェ!
When Cannon raised the hatchet and tried to dive into the darkness definitely sneered. It sneered at the courage if it was vulgar, lazy, futile, and meaningless. Oh my god, that noise is so creepy. Surely a jump scare or something. Oh. Oh! What the? Why Luigi's Mansion ghost laughing noises? That's what that sounded like. Cannon, his hatchet still held aloft, couldn't take another step after that. With the hatchet that he'd been grasping. Did he get impaled in falling down with a pair of thuds? Kaned's knees hit left and right. That hand looked like it was trying to catch the sky now that the hatchet had been dropped, gradually lowered, landing on his chest. Then the other hand did the same. Oh! Kaned! Why? Wait. That means it has to be Genji. There's no other person, because the other two culprits that I thought were culprits are dead. The same type of weapon that had been stabbed to Eva and Hideyoshi's foreheads was in Kaned's chest. Kaned was caught up in anguish, fresh blood dribbling from the corner of his mouth. It was makeup too extreme for Kaned's white skin. Ah, the butterflies are fucking happy that this happened. Around the scene, the glittering gold butterflies danced through the darkness, mesmerizing. It was a beautiful, beautiful dance, a funeral merged of tribute, ridicule, and contempt for a single boy's self-sacrifice. He sacrificed himself for nothing, but although he could do nothing but accept the death he had received, he attempted one last measure of resistance. He grasped the hand of the weapon sticking into his chest with both hands, and gritting his teeth with an acute, unearthly pain, he pulled it out. For a moment, a bright red spray gushed out, made an unpleasant blop sound, presumably resembled the sound of cannon shell as it was sucked into the swamp of the dead. Three people are dead in one episode, and there were two separate murders. Kumazawa screamed at the incomprehensible sight in front of her. Cannon was lying in a pool. Wait, where the fuck were you? You said you were gonna come down and Did you... Yeah! No, you were with him! You said you were going down! As she screamed to express his foot, you probably threw it! But no one could have made fun of an expression like this. The first one to dash in was Natsui holding the rifle. Bado and Genji dashed in after. Normally, they probably would have started discussing the origin of the violent stench filling the boiler room, but after they saw Kinnan, who was lying on the ground as if he was drowning in an ocean of his own blood, the stench wasn't important anymore. Natsu realized that even though Kinnan was on the verge of death, he was still conscious, so he sent Genji to get the doctor. Natsu, holding the rifle aloft, faced the darkness in the center of the boiler room and shouted. Bado, thinking quickly, took a Lord's flashlight from the tool shelf alongside the door and used it as a light to cut through the darkness Natsui was going into. Why didn't Cannon do that? But the light only shone on mechanical-looking piping in a door. The door had been left open, a small crack, and was obvious that someone had left along through a hurry. Genji, あの扉はどこに通じているのですか?
中庭です。逃がすかよ。くそ、この野郎。
Bado war cries, he slammed into the door. Kua from outside suddenly rushed in. There was some thin, rough stairs leading up. Bado ran up them shouting. Natsu was also rushing up the stairs, chasing after Bado. They were in the courtyard. The courtyard of the mansion had been built strictly for lighting purposes. Is he officially pronounced dead yet? No, he's technically still going. Because it was surrounded on all sides, the air was calm and completely undisturbed, even though the culprit could hear the sound of strong winds. There was only the gentle, sorrowful rain. As he ran through the cold and scattered raindrops dashing up the stairs of the courtyard, Bado looked in every direction. Of course, the odds of him finding a suspicious silhouette just standing out nonchalantly were pretty much zero. Bado spun, looking. Haha! The chessboard spun Bado around. He turned again and again. He kept spinning until he almost lost his sense of direction. He prayed that he would see the culprit somewhere in the scenery, but there was no chance. All he saw was he spun was more and more of the mansion's hairless walls and windows. Furthermore, there were two entrances into the mansion from the courtyard. Neither of them were locked. Because the courtyard... Anyone could have done that. No, everyone has an alibi except for Kumasawa and Genji, I think. Battle with pounded. Oh, and Nanjo. Badaru pressed his forehead against the wall, which he scratched at with his fingers as he cried.
畜生平和おばさんに秀吉おじさんさらにカノン君かよ6人も殺しやがった飽き足らずさらに3人も殺しやがったふざけるなふざけるなエヴァおばさんも秀吉おじさんも昔からいつもカノン君とは昨日会ったばかりだがきっとこれから仲良くなんで殺したんだどうして人ってのはな殺しちまったらなタケノコみてえにひょいひょい生えてきちゃ来ねえんだぞどうして殺すんだよどうして
Gunshot? No. Badaru was a boy who could understand the feelings of pain and regret in a person's hurt, so he cried. With all of his strength. Naturally, I always thought of Badaru as a frank person, was a little surprised to find he had this delicate side, and at the same time he understood how easily hurt the hurt of a young person could be, so he held him.
大丈夫です。あなたもジョージ君もマリアちゃんもジェシカも母として、そして後宮家の代表として。
Badaru, after sobbing into Natsui's chest for a while, wiped his tears with a bitter smile as though he'd been like that the whole time and tried to appear as though he cried more than enough already.
とにかく一度下に戻りまし犯人を探すより自分たちの身を守る方が明日になれば船が来るそうすれば警察がやってきて全てを白日のもとにさらし犯人がどうあがこうともこの島から逃げられるものですか
警察さえ
When the seagulls cry, the crime will be solved. But for some reason, Badaru felt a slight sense of uneasiness as the seagulls wouldn't... No, but then there wouldn't be any game, because the seagulls have to cry. It's when the seagulls cry. The typhoon passes, so the lively seagulls will return to the harbor again. Oh my god, guys, pull through just one more night. 3 people are dead in one episode. Oh my god. Oh, like, no, he's still alive. We heard that Dr. Nanzo and George and Nikki had carried Kanekun to the serving room. The serving room had a first aid kit in the sink, and could apparently function as a nurse's office. Kumasawa-san and Jessica hadn't accompanied them. Stains from Kanekun's blood remained on the floor. Judging by the words around a blood loss and the ruthless shape of the weapon that had fallen carelessly to the ground, I figured that Dr. Nanzo's treatment would probably end in vain. The weapon was doubtlessly the same type that had been stuck in Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi's forehead. But wait, isn't that demonic design on the handle a little different? Seemed to be some small differences in that part. Still, as far as the overall shape was concerned, the weapons were all the same type. Though it had seemed brutal, we left the weapons stuck in Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi to preserve the crime scene. So this is the first time we were able to have a perfect view of the entire weapon. As we expected, the weapon was not a blade like a knife, but a shaped like an ice pick, or rather a thin stake. And it had the spiral-shaped pattern, sort of a drill. It looked like something that might be driven into the herds of human sacrifices in some... Yup, perfect for this scenario. Including the handle, it was 25 centimeters long. Half of that was the stake. How did they even get that accurate so he sawed off? But Aunt Natsui and the rest didn't even look at the weapon and instead stood in the front incinerator where the horrible stencil was emanating from. They must have dragged out that thing which had been burning in the furnace. It was still smoldering and kept sending out dense waves of that awful unpleasant smell. Genji-san and Maria stared down at it. Aunt Natsui probably couldn't even stand to look directly at it. She kept shaking her head and her back to it. I thought nothing could surprise me after everything that happened. But this is... Ugh. I stood there for a while moaning with a rising urge to vomit. The true source of the unearthly stench was a scorched corpse. What? There's something in there? Whoa. What's... Why? Wait, no, that... Who's in there? But when I thought about it calmly, I realized the corpse appearing at this time couldn't be one person. Oh! Holy... Oh my... Okay, he is not the culprit. Who is the fucking culprit? Wait, but how can you be so certain?
このようなお姿でお亡くなりにおいたわしや。
でもこの死体本当にじい様だって。こうも黒焦げじゃ性別さえも想像つかないってのに。
バトラ君、足をご覧なさい。
That's a weird thing to say, Natsuri. Aunt Natsuri with her handkerchief over her mouth and her eyes averted pointed and told me to look at the burnt corpse's feet. Huh?
両足の指が6本あるのがお分かりになりませんか？
本当だ。
Just as Genshi-san had said, there were 6 toes on each foot. Each individual toe had looked at... Is he dead now, too? Oh, it still disappeared. We just found his body, updated already. The master was
お生
born...
まれの時か
Oh, he's reading.
ら両足の指がそれぞれ6本でした。そして故に親方様は後ろ宮家の再興を託されたのです。
後ろ宮家には
I
昔
guess he
から
lost his
生
roulette.
まれつき多子症の方が多かったそうです。
Maybe if he had a cool fidget spinner chessboard like
多
me,
分
he
遺伝
wouldn't
的
have
なもの
lost.
でしょう。
Polydactyly literally means many fingers. Because of a little mistake by God when the person is born, one of their toes or fingers splits into 2 and the total number increases. But a big deal isn't usually made of polydactyly in the world at large. That's because it isn't a D, it's just some people are born with it. So while they're still babies, about half the time they turn 1 year old, then they can be taken to a hospital and given a surgery to make them normal. Even a child with polydactyly can be treated before they become aware, so they might not even remember it themselves. By the way, it seems that there's a possibility for this to occur in 1 out of every 2,000 babies. So even though it's not unusually seen, it isn't that rare at all. Speaking of which, I think Uncle Hideyoshi mentioned something to me long ago. Something about how even Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the man who unified Japan at the end of Senagoki period, had 6 fingers on one hand. According to Aunt Natsui, among the many Ushima family heads, the ones most praised for their wisdom all had polydactyly. Because of that, when grandfather was born, his relatives were all excited as though he might become another Wesley. Okay, is he finally dead? No, he still disappeared! When the leading relatives all died in the Great Kanto earthquake, it was apparently argued that grandfather should be the one to restore the family because of the auspicious sign of his birth. If grandfather hadn't disliked his position as the head so much, the 6th toe probably would have been pretty lucky for him. Come to think of it, I've heard about some country where it's believed people with polydactyly should be treated as gods and revered. This is besides the point, but the fairly... Oh my god, don't even talk about that. Like, talk about the mystery, but I guess in grandfather's case, just toasting him wouldn't be enough, and grandfather's body was not simply burned. It was just like Ani for an Uncle Hideyoshi, the thing that had been stabbed into... That was the thing. One of those demon ice picks was stuck into his forehead.
指に闘士の指
Yeah,
が
he threw it
あ
out
り
the
ません。
window.
昨夜の手紙の通りということですか、お父様。さぞやご無念でしょう。
Natsui let her head droop and closed her eyes tightly. Aw, that's sad. Is he dead now, officially? Yeah, officially! Oh my god, it took long enough. Burned in instead with a weapon resembling ice state. Oh, Yojoso vanished. Okay. And I think we're gonna end here since it's been like 59 minutes into the recording. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like, subscribe, it's great, appreciate it. And yeah, see you guys in the next one. Bye.